This is your latest Manchester United news and lots to talk about as per usual. Positive news around Paul Pogba, exciting news around a transfer coming from Christian Falk, who we know is pretty credible when it comes to German transfer news. Also, Fred has been targeted again by a certain somebody who was on the United stand, so we'll talk about that. To be fair to them, I think they might have something truthful about that to say as well. But look, it's busy, it's very busy, and the reality is it's busy because we are moving towards, well, European football's over now. You know, European football's over. It's now all about the Premier League. Somebody said, what about Arsenal tonight? Yeah, European football's over, mates. Not interested in that bloody Poundland Champions League. We're not in it. We only take an interest when we're in it because there's nothing else to do on a Thursday. Paint your fence. Have a bonfire. It's crap football. Anyway, real football is now about the Premier League. Manchester United against Chelsea. We'll be touching on that. We've got the preview coming up a little bit later today, which I'm excited about. But let's start off with some positivity again. And what I'm loving at the moment is we're bathing in a bath of positivity at the moment at Manchester United. A lot of things are going well. Could go wrong on Saturday night. We've got to be very wary of that. I've heard a lot of people talking about that. I've heard a lot of you talking about that, and you're very right. But let's start off with Paul Pogba, because I think Pogba is such a divisive character around Manchester United. The story around Pogba is always tinged with negativity, whether it's dreaming about going to Madrid or whether he should be dropped, whether he's consistent. Is United's best player, la la la. I had somebody saying it yesterday, you know, Paul Pogba is Manchester United's best talent. I don't care what you say. I agree with that, but he's not our best player. He's our best talent, but he's not our best player because he doesn't perform as consistency as some other players do in a shirt, but he is the best talent. However, Pogba has spoken out about being dropped for the PSG game, and it's a positive that he's come out. And this fits in with what I said to you a couple of nights ago when Pogba played against PSG with a smile on his face. He is not disruptive. He's not a disruptive character. You know, he may well want to leave Manchester United at the end of this contract. He may well want to go next summer. His dream may well be to play with Real Madrid. In some ways, you can spin that as a positive, that he's actually quite honest about what he wants. But he is not disruptive at Manchester United at this moment, and he is not against the manager or the club or anything like that. That is very obvious in his demeanour when he came on. And he spoke about the PSG game, and he spoke about being a sub, and he said this was prepared. It was part of the plan. We've got to respect the fact that PSG are a very attacking side. We needed to deal with that, and it was all part of the preparation for the game, that he was basically a substitute. And obviously he came on with, 25 minutes to go, and we took control of that game. We played a very tactical game. We played a 90-minute game, and we did it in phases, and it worked perfectly. Now, whether Pogba's going to play against Chelsea, that's a conversation for the preview. But what I'm happy about, and what I'm very happy about Manchester United at the moment, is almost like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has created a siege mentality. The international break, the disaster of the transfer window, the Pochettino stuff, the Pogba stuff, the Bruno stuff that was lies, feels to me like Ole almost may have had a meeting with the team this time last week when they came back from international duty and used what Sir Alex Ferguson used to do and built a camaraderie, built a siege mentality whereby we even had a leaked team news. Remember the leaked team news for Newcastle? It wasn't right. It wasn't even nearly right. So are we now starting to see a bit of unity, a bit of siege mentality in that football club? And I think that we are. And the fact that Paul Pogba has been dropped for the last two games and looks happy. The fact that Nemanja Matic has been dropped the last two games and looks happy. This is good because I think players realise that if they play well, they'll get in the team. And it's not about reputation. It's not about I'm this player, I'm that player. You'll get in the team. There's a very big chance that Juan Mata will start against Chelsea at the weekend because he played well against Newcastle. But tactically, we couldn't fit him into the team against PSG. Lots of opportunities for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and lots of players happy. And this feeds in again with last night when we were talking about this warning for Mason Greenwood. If United were having a bad season and we're warning Mason Greenwood and he's going off the rails a bit, that's bad. If he's going off the rails a little bit, turning up late for training now, when all the big players are playing well, and people like Bruno and Pogba and Rashford, they'll be looking at Greenwood and they'll be going, "What are you doing, mate? Like, why? What are you doing? You're 18 years of age. You're not the best team player. You're not the best player in the team yet. You're a young talent. Sort yourself out." And that's a good thing for Greenwood to have to look at and see that the team is doing well, and he's got to work to get back into it. And we need Greenwood on Saturday. We need Mason Greenwood every game because he's a fantastic talent. But there's a camaraderie around the team at the moment. There's a positivity around the team at the moment. And I'm very happy. And it's good that Paul Pogba's happy, because I tell you what, just before we move on from Pogba, the thing about Paul Pogba is that he is, maybe he's going to go next summer. He's only got 2 years left on his contract. Maybe he is. But I said this a few days ago. If you remember, I said, well, you can be Pogba in, you can be Pogba out. You can be Pogba's going to leave in the summer. But Pogba's here till next June. We've got Paul Pogba at Manchester United till next June. That's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for Pogba and it's an opportunity for us. If Pogba said to Solskjaer, look, I want to go to Real Madrid in the summer and I know they want me. If I'm Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I'm just going to say, fine. You've been here for a few years. I understand it's not like you've been here 5 minutes. You've nearly been here 5 years. If you want to go to Real Madrid, that's fine. But you're here for the next year. Let's work together. Let's get on. Let's get the best out of you. Let's get the best out of Manchester United. Let's get the best deal for everybody. But over the next 9 months, let's respect each other. Let's do what we can do. And you know what, Paul? What if we get to a Champions League final? What if we're in a title race? You might change your mind. And Pogba would probably go, I might do. I don't think that's going to happen, Ollie, but I might do. So that's what United need to do. And I think that's what we're getting from Pogba. We're getting that. He looks happy. He knows the situation. I'm sure there's been clear the air talks. And it feels like this is across the board at the moment. And I feel that, we didn't have the transfer window that we wanted. But Tellez has given a massive boost to that left-hand side. And I want to talk about Cavani in a minute because I think he's really interesting. But look, positivity around Pogba. He's spoken out and he's spoken out positively. And I think there's a lot of positivity around United at the moment. Is he wearing makeup, says Dave. I don't wear makeup. I don't wear bloody makeup. Nothing wrong with it if you do. There you go. We won't miss him that much, says Abdalik. Well, I think we will miss Pogba, actually. Depends how we replace him, which I'll talk about in a moment. And we need Fred versus Chelsea. He's got good defensive ability and he can involve at the opponent's half of our team, says Ibhab. I'm glad you've spoken about Fred, because Fred is a topic I want to talk about. Now, Troy Deeney, Watford striker, was on the United stand back in April talking with Flex in an interview during lockdown. And it was a really interesting interview because it's always good to speak to an opposition player who's played against United. And we had questions like, who's the hardest player to play against? What's it like being on the pitch against United tactically? The one thing that really resonated from that interview from Troy Deeney was that he said, Fred's a weakness in your team. With Fred, to get after his first touch because he doesn't have a great first touch and he can't play one-touch passing. Well, that was on the United stand back in April. Probably didn't get picked up mainstream because, United stand's a United channel. We're not bloody Sky Sports or anything like that. Troy Deeney now works for Talk Sport and he said the same thing. And it's a big thing this morning that Troy Deeney has said, you can get after Fred. He's got a bad first touch. This is not news to United standers who saw that interview. He said it back in April. But it is interesting. And look, we can all say Deeney's this, he's that, he's crap, he plays for Watford, whatever. I think Troy Deeney is what I would call a real journeyman, hardcore professional footballer. You see what you get with a player like him, and I don't disagree with what he's saying about Fred. For me, Fred was probably our best player against PSG. But look, Troy Deeney's played on the pitch with Fred. It's not like, Fred's run off with his bloody car or something like that, or keyed it or anything like that. There's no history between Fred and Deeney. This is just Deeney saying what he thinks about Fred as a potential weakness. And if we're absolutely honest about Fred, it probably is the weak point of his game, his passing and his first touch. But his tenacity, his speed across the ground and his breaking up the play, as we saw against PSG on Tuesday, absolutely superb. My observation of Fred is this. I like him. I think there's aspects to his game he can improve. He's the most mobile midfielder we've got, and he's the closest we've got to a sort of a Kante or a Fabinho sort of midfielder, which we do need. I don't think he's on their level because I don't think he's got the ball distribution of them. But I watched Fred play a couple of times for Shakhtar before we bought him. I think he played against Man City, and he played really, really well. And he played superbly well against PSG. And I just wonder if the European game, the Champions League, just seems to suit him. And it makes no sense because Man City in the Champions League, well, they're a Premier League club. But Fred can be absolutely superb for us. But I do think, and I do agree with Deeney, and I think, criticism when it's valid is always something you can work on. I think if I'm talking about Marcus Rashford, my criticism of Marcus Rashford, and it was evident on Tuesday night, and I've always said this, I hate people who call him Trashford. I hate people who call him, the new Danny Welbeck, especially within our own fan base. It's massively disrespectful. I don't like it. But what I would say is his final ball, Rashford's final decision-making, still needs polishing. And we saw it against PSG when we were running through. He's on the right-hand side. There's one PSG defender, then there's Martial. he lets the ball bounce and instantly tries to play the killer pass. What he should do, he's got 3 options. He can try and play the killer pass, which is the hardest thing to do straight away. He can dribble with it and then play the pass, or he can dribble with it and go straight for goal. He makes the wrong choice. And he got through in a couple of times and he got caught by the defender. I think Marcus Rashford's decision making is still a work in progress. And the same thing with Fred. I think with Fred just needs to work on his... I mean, it's amazing for a Brazilian, but Fred needs to work on his first touch and his ball distribution. But I do like Fred, and I did want to mention Fred because I don't think he deserves to be a national talking point this morning that he's got a first touch like Lukaku. He hasn't. He's a very good player, and I will be talking about what I would do in the midfield and what I think Ollie will do on the preview this afternoon. But for me, Fred played against Newcastle. He played against PSG. It's very hard to drop him and McTominay at this moment, I would say. But I like him. And Bayern are on fire, Fat Joe Gaming. We're not a Bayern Munich fan channel, but to beat Atletico Madrid, they're just a fantastic side. The Man U says Pogba out and Deeney in. We'll be talking about that on the preview as well. I want to talk about Cavani, but I also want to talk about a bit of exciting transfer news. And I know I'm there with you. I'm exhausted by transfer news, but little bits come out and you go, "Oh, that's interesting." Christian Falk was talking on the Byline podcast, and he was talking about Dennis Zakaria of Borussia Mönchengladbach. Now, this is a midfielder. Now, I don't know loads about Zakaria. Some of you will know more, but my interpretation of Zakaria is very good on the ball, very good at carrying the ball, very physical, almost a better Fred in that box-to-box position. I'm not so sure he's a CDM, so. But some people feel he could play as a CDM as well. But definitely the sort of player that you would want to bring into Manchester United, early 20s, and look, exactly the sort of profile of player that United want to bring. A player that's ready to take a step up, who can become one of the world's top talents in his position. I'm probably not the world's best talents, but become a top-class talent in his position. So Dennis Zakaria is interesting. He plays in Germany for Mönchengladbach, and Christian Falk, who writes for Bild, we had him on the show a couple of times over the summer, very good around German news. He says that he was basically talking on the Byline, which is Alex Goldberg, who's a Chelsea fan, about the interest from Chelsea. And he said, yeah, there is interest from Chelsea, but he's also on Manchester United's transfer list, and he's also on Man City's transfer list. So it's interesting that, I think the exciting thing about that is not that I think we're going to sign Zakaria, but it's a player that, much like Bruno probably 2 years ago, Fabinho 4 years ago, there's players that get mentioned in the chat or on the United stand that we go, oh, that'd be a good player. And most of the time we won't buy them, but we go, oh, that'd be a good player. And I think Zakaria is one of those players that a lot of you have said, I'd love United to be in for him. Well, that's a bit of an exciting, encouraging story, isn't it? That Christian Falk is saying that United are interested in him. Doesn't mean we're going to get the deal done, of course. I think when there's competition for a player, I fear that we will lose that competition. But he's definitely the sort of player that United should be looking at. I had a bad injury over the summer. That's why I didn't move. But Falk did say next summer will be the time for him to move. What I would say about that is, can you see United signing Zakaria, Upamecano and Sancho next summer, having just seen the transfer, the financials that went out yesterday? £70 million loss, debts up to over £400 million. Glazers are still taking millions out in dividends. I think next summer's going to be a tight summer for Manchester United. Solskjaer's side becomes first ever United team to win 10 away games in a row, says Jenks 1102. I don't know, but you know what? I don't know how that works. I saw that and I wanted to mention that. I wanted to mention that Manchester United are the first team to win 10 games away in a row. But we lost to Sevilla, and that wasn't at home. And I know it's not at Sevilla. It just doesn't feel right to me to say we've won 10 away games in a row when we actually haven't. Technically, I suppose you can say, well, Sevilla was a semi-final and it was on neutral territory. Still not at Old Trafford, though, is it? Still a competitive game, and we lost it in 90 minutes. So I'm not really going to buy that, to be honest. What I would say is, though, winning 10 out of your last 11 away games sounds a lot better to me than trying to fudge the figures and say we've won our last 10. Because we haven't won our last 10 because we lost to Sevilla. But winning 10 of our last 11 is bloody superb. No draws, like we've won 10 of our last 11 away games, which is absolutely superb. George Kyle also mentions Wembley seen as neutral, and so was the Europa semi. Yeah, so exactly, you're right, George. So we actually lost against Chelsea in the Wembley semi-final as well. So yeah, I'm not really going to buy into that. You know, we lost to Chelsea as well. We lost to Sevilla. They weren't at Old Trafford, and we're just getting into technicalities, aren't we? You know, the reality is they were competitive games of football that we lost. But even so, let's add those two in. We've won 10 of our last 12 games away from Old Trafford in competitive matches, which is great. Absolutely great. Hope you're well. What are your thoughts on people giving Fred and Shaw stick after the PSG game? In my opinion, it's disgrace. What do you think is realistic, AC? Well, the chart show is back on Saturday morning, and both of those two players will firmly be in the top 10. I don't get it. I actually do not get it. I know, look, pink boots and all that lot, but Fellaini I didn't really like as a United player. But what I don't get, and what I don't do, is I don't get on the back of players for United that play well just because I've got an agenda. And I think in relation to people like a Luke Shaw or a Fred or a Rashford or a Pogba, the people that don't like them will ignore a good performance because they don't like them. You know, the stuff that Luke Shaw gets against him, like, oh, hide your sandwiches, it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And, you know, I thought, as I said on Tuesday night, I thought Fred was one of the best players on the pitch. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. And I thought that Luke Shaw, well, look, was Luke Shaw the best player on the pitch? No. Did he play fantastically well? Yes. He played left centre-back. Tell me how many left-backs can go and play left-sided centre-back. Not many. And then, in the same game, we switched to a back four and he goes back to left-back and plays superbly well as well. So basically, Luke Shaw did two people's jobs on Tuesday night and did it very, very well. I mean, we'll talk about it on the preview. I don't really think Luke Shaw will start at the weekend because I don't think we should be playing a back five. But you know what? Ollie might play a back five. He might go with a back five. If Maguire's injured again, he might go with a back five against Chelsea, which I think is a mistake. But if he goes with a back four, I don't think Luke Shaw starts. But look, the thing that I don't understand about agendas is that we want. Look, I'll tell you this, and a lot of people in the live comments will know this. Some won't because they're not old enough. I'm old enough to know what Man United did as a successful side. I'm old enough to remember 99. I'm old enough to remember 08 clearly, vividly, you know. And squad game. It's a squad game. We are finally getting a squad, and yet some of our fan base still want to keep their agendas going on against some players. If Alex Telles breaks his leg and he's out for 3 months, Luke Shaw will be our left back. Happy days. You know, if McTominay and Matic get injured, Fred will be our CDM. Happy days. It's a squad game. If Bruno gets injured, Van der Beek comes in. It's a squad game. This is what we're trying to build. This is why the transfer window in some ways was very disappointing, because we're short at centre-back. But in other areas, players are performing well. Players are performing well, and we've got a squad. And the best thing about it is, for the first time in years, we're excited about a team news. A team sheet comes out. We argue to death about it because we would have done things differently. But it's in a good way, because it's like, well, it worked on Tuesday. It worked against Newcastle. Whereas I think in the past we were seeing crap players get selected and good players not get selected under different managers. And now it's like we're having an open debate. Matt Carroll says, if Shaw can play at centre-back, don't you think Aaron Wan-Bissaka can? Well, that's a silly point, though, isn't it? Because if you think Aaron Wan-Bissaka can play at centre-back, you don't understand football, mate. Aaron Wan-Bissaka spends most of his time on the ground. How many sliding tackle centre-backs do you know? Centre-back is about staying on your feet, reading the game, and positional sense. Aaron Wan-Bissaka reads the game well, but doesn't stay on his feet. He's very right-footed. He's no way is Aaron Wan-Bissaka a centre-back. He doesn't spend enough time on his feet. He's a full-back. That's what he is. He's a specialist full-back. He's not a CDM. He's not a right-sided centre-back. He is a right-back. Some people are absolutely where they are. Can you imagine Roberto Carlos playing as a left-sided centre-back? No, he's a bloody left-back, and he's one of the best left-backs in the world. Some people just get obsessed with turning players into other positions. The amount of time I've heard Lindelof can play CDM, and maybe Pogba could be a winger. They are what they are, and that's the genius of what Luke Shaw did on Tuesday night. There's not many players that can go from left back to left centre back to left back. It's a skill, and it's a very important skill, and that's why over the years people like Wes Brown and John O'Shea were worth their weight in gold, because in a squad game they were absolutely essential, because I mean, Gary Neville used to play centre-back a little bit, but really he was a right-back. But Wes Brown, he could play right-back, centre-back. John O'Shea could play full-back, centre-back and CDM. It's not easy. It's a skill in itself. It's like cricket in the all-rounder. You've got a batter, you've got a bowler, and then in the middle order, you've got someone who can do both. Very, very difficult skills to do. Leave Pogba and Ollie and let them do their work and make it right. Support all the way, says Mud. And Luke Shaw is brilliant, says Lisby. I want to talk about Cavani for a moment. Please smash a like on the video if you're watching live by the as well. Do we think Cavani starts against Chelsea at the weekend is the big question. And I suppose the big question is I don't know that he will. It's very difficult because he only started training with United last Sunday. And whilst people have said he's had a full week of training, he hasn't really had a full week training, has he? Because United have been in Paris from basically Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Today's probably their first day back training. Cavani's not played any competitive football in about 6 months. And, I mean, effectively, he's been a bad buy. Not that he's going to be a bad buy, but when we bought Cavani was just stupidity. Well done, Ed Woodward and co, because we bought him right at the end of the transfer window, which meant he had to go in self-isolation, which means that he can't train. If we'd bought Cavani back in August, he would have been doing all this training now. He would have been fed into the team in the first few games of the season, the Carabao Cup games and all that, and he'd be totally match fit now. The problem we've got with Cavani now is, and this is why I wanted to talk about it on the morning show, is that I see people on United fans going, oh, he's going to start. We haven't got Martial, but he's going to start. And I just think, whoa. And if there's any horses, don't worry. I'm not trying to stop you. What I'm trying to say is that I think the expectations on Cavani are ridiculous. To expect that he's going to start against Chelsea, well, maybe he could. Maybe he has got fitness levels to do that. But how sharp is he going to be? How match ready is he going to be? And this is the thing. I look at Cavani and I really hope he's going to be an important player for us. I mean, he's got lots of experience and definitely has those leadership traits that we need in the dressing room and on the training ground and on the pitch. We do need him against Chelsea. We need as fit as Cavani and a match sharp Cavani as we can. But are we not being totally unrealistic to expect Cavani to play against Chelsea when he's not played in months and he's only just started training with the team? And that's not Cavani's fault, it's not Solskjaer's fault, and it's not our fault. The fault lies with the club and the fact that they did a deal that was very desperate, that actually, if they knew they were going to mess because basically we bought Cavani at the end of the transfer window because we messed everything up, whether it's Sancho, Ousmane Dembele, whoever. We messed it up and we went, oh, get Cavani as a last minute thing. Actually, if they had a brain, then they should have realised 2 months before the last day of the transfer window that they were incompetent, like we all know, and gone, let's get Cavani now. And if we got Cavani in, as I said, 2 or a month earlier than we did, or 2 months, as we could have done because he was a free agent, then he'd be totally ready now. Look, I'm not even talking about the risk of whether he's injury prone, whether he's over the hill, whether he's done and dusted or whatever like that. They're all conversations to have when he's match fit. But there's no way he is match fit for the game against Chelsea at the weekend. And I think he'll be on the bench, but I don't think he's going to be ready for a few weeks yet. So people saying, well, we haven't got Martial, we've got Cavani. The reason I wanted to mention it this morning is I don't think we have got Cavani. I mean, of course we have. He's physically there. But I think by the time Cavani's match fit, Martial will be back anyway. And that's the sad thing for me, because we really could have done with a match fit Cavani now, but the fact that we did it so late in the transfer window and he's not been able to get any fitness into him, I don't see him starting against Chelsea. I do not see him starting against Chelsea, and I think it could be a bloody disaster starting him against Chelsea, because it's not his fault if he's not match fit. And we've seen over the years players coming back from injury who aren't match fit, and you're carrying him. I mean, Rooney used to be terrible after an injury. He'd be terrible for 2 or 3 games until he got back up and match running. So I think that, as much as I'm excited to see Cavani, I think starting him against Chelsea at the weekend might knock us down to 10 men, and you can't do that. So I'd be very surprised if Ollie starts him, but it represents a problem there. How do you construct a team? I don't think you can play the 5-3-2, because if you can't play Cavani, and you definitely can't play Martial because he's suspended, are you really going to play Rashford and Dan James or Rashford and Ighalo and then have to drop a Van der Beek and a Pogba because of a system again? I think we should go with the team that we played against Newcastle. I wouldn't get excited about this Dennis Zakaria story, says Leith. And I'm excited by the link, to be honest. I think the link is interesting. And also, Troy Deeney calls out Fred and says he's inconsistent and did not play well against PSG. Thoughts on this, Mark, says Realistic AC. Total crap. Total crap. But to be honest with you, Talk Sport's full of that. I mean, look, I'll put my hands up. If I'm driving down to London, I'll put Talk Sport on because it's a filler. But do I sit listening to Talk Sport at any other time if I'm not on a long journey where I'm bored? No, I don't. Because I think that Talk Sport pundits talk shit a lot of the time, because ultimately what they're trying to do is say something. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if before that show went live it was like, Troy, can you say something controversial about United? Well, I don't really rate Fred that much. Yeah, say Fred was shit, because it will just get that's what Talk Sport does. They do it on Drive at 4 o'clock. Should Arsenal sack Arteta and throw him in the Thames if they draw tonight against Rapid Vienna? That might well be the topic for Talk Sport tonight, because a lot of what they do is about creating controversy through topics that are actually bordering on the idiocy. I mean, Fred was not awful against PSG. He's not inconsistent. What he is, he gets picked inconsistently, but actually, since lockdown, Fred, when he's played, has been one of our better players. The reality is he doesn't get picked very often. He gets subbed quite early. Against Newcastle, I thought he was unlucky to get subbed very early in that game, like 60 minutes he was off. Sevilla, in the Europa League semi-final, he was fantastic. That midfield three of Fred, Pogba and Bruno played really well. They were let down by the chances we missed up front and awful defending. People forget that about Sevilla. You go back and watch that Europa League semi-final. We played really well. And Sevilla are a very good side. We should have done to Sevilla what we did to PSG. We should have won. And Fred played brilliant in that game, as did Pogba and Bruno. But it gets forgotten because we lost and we focus on the chances that we missed and the defensive errors. But Fred is not inconsistent. I just don't think he gets a fair run in the team. And I've always said this about Fred. I feel that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer probably doesn't rate Fred as a starter when everybody's ready. I think he probably values McTominay more. I don't think that's right on Ollie's part. I think Fred's a very, very good player, and I think he the thing about Fred, and the reason I like him, and I think the reason a lot of you like him, is he's the midfielder we've wanted for probably 10 years. He is the sort of Kante midfielder, and he's nowhere near as good as Kante, but what I'm saying is he's mobile and he's tenacious, and I think in the modern game you need that sort of player. And we saw it against PSG time and time again. He just got in and he won the ball back and then we're on the attack. And we haven't really got... Matic ain't quick enough to do that. McTominay's not got a lower sense of gravity to do that. So Fred's the one player that we've got who can do it. Rashford gets called Welbeck after scoring 22 and assisting 8 last season. 4 and 2 this season already. Delusions abound, says Viraj. Again, I just think that... I don't know. I think we live in a society where some people just can't be humble. They've got chips on their shoulder, and I'm not talking about McDonald's chips. I'm talking about, they're just stubborn and resentful. And it's almost like these people cannot change, I mean, what I don't understand about it is if you don't like Rashford and you think he's shit and you're still saying that, what are your principles then? Because you're basically a robot. You're basically saying, no, he's shit forever. And he's shit. But that's not how life works. Like, look at Star Wars. The first trilogy was very good. The second trilogy's crap. Nothing stays good forever, but nothing stays bad forever. Unless it's Arsenal. I'm only joking. But no, seriously, I think, maybe Rashford does have issues. Maybe Fred does. Maybe Luke Shaw does. But it doesn't mean that they don't eradicate those issues, and it doesn't mean that they can't be good players. And I just think the criticism of some of our players from some of our fans is based on agenda, where it doesn't matter how well they do, they'll always resort to this agenda that they have. And I think that's sad, especially when things are going well. But what I would say is we've got a very, very big game against Chelsea on Saturday evening. And for all the positivity we've got from PSG and Newcastle, it will all disintegrate like a bowling ball through a poppadom, to use an old phrase, if we don't beat Chelsea on Saturday. And a draw might be okay, but it will only be okay. We've lost 2 and we've won 2 in the Premier League. We need to win against Chelsea. And if we win against Chelsea on Saturday, we're really happy again for 2 or 3 days, and then we're going to be saying the same thing again. RB Leipzig, we've got to win that. Doesn't matter what we did against Chelsea, PSG and Newcastle. And then if we win that, we're then going to be going into the game against Arsenal saying, well, it doesn't matter what we've done against those. We've got to beat Arsenal. So I said this in the international break, and so did many of you. The great thing about this next run of games is you're only as good as your last game. And if we lose to Chelsea, PSG and Newcastle become irrelevant. But if we beat Chelsea, we go to the next one. And we've got to focus on that Chelsea game, because I'll tell you now, if we get beat by Chelsea, quite rightly, people will be back out again saying, I'm not sure he's the man for the job. Are these players good enough? Transfer window cost us, la-di-da. So it's all relevant, of course it is. Right, thanks everybody for watching. Rahul says that Leipzig are going to be very easy. We've got the preview coming up at 2 o'clock. Very excited about that. Chelsea versus Manchester United preview at 2 o'clock. You can get involved in that. We've got a tactical clip from Cam as well, which you can see on Twitter, but I've been putting it up. And Chirag says that left foot of Tellez is lit. I just love Tellez's composure. I'm really looking forward to seeing more and more of him, actually. I'm not convinced that we needed Tellez, because I do like Luke Shaw. But we do need him because we need 2 left backs. But the thing about the left back is we've now got 2 really good left backs, and I'm very happy. But we haven't got that covering centre back, and we haven't even got a right winger. So we were totally right to buy Tellez, but it wasn't the priority. We needed Tellez, but we should have got a centre back and a right winger as well, because they were more important. But I'm so happy we've got him, and I think he's going to be a star. And he looks to me like a player that's going to hit the ground running like Bruno, and be very, very consistent. He's a fantastic player. I mean, he was Porto's best player. Porto's best player was their left back, Tellez. This is what we've bought. He's one of the best left backs in the world. So he's absolutely fantastic. Thanks everyone for watching. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe if you're new. Make sure you've got your notifications on. The preview is coming out at 2, and I'll speak to you in a bit.